Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, I'm going to be taking a look at Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the third entry, or somewhat fourth entry if you want to count Xenoblade Chronicles X, of the Xenoblade Chronicles series for the Nintendo Switch. This is a game developed by Monolith Soft, published by Nintendo. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video. And for parents out there, it's worth pointing out that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is rated T for teens, ages 13 and up, by the ESRB rating system. The Xenoblade Chronicles series, in terms of being where it is right now, in terms of a important, or let's say important franchise for Nintendo fans out there, has very much a very interesting history. Originally part of what was now known as what was once called Operation Rainfall, this was a series that Nintendo didn't have any plans, or at least announced at the time, to bring over to the West, though, and they kind of got, or at least here in North America, and they kind of got a bit of a backlash or criticism about that at the time, though. But over the years, we've seen the series has kind of grown a little bit, though. Outside of the first one, released on the Wii back in 2011, the game would also receive basically a spin-off, Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U, to the first game being remade for Nintendo 3DS, the new 3DS, to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 acting as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch back in 2017, to a somewhat of a remake of the first game making its way over to the Nintendo Switch. Well, now we have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a game that apparently was sort of surprised people when they showed it off to the Nintendo Direct, not to mention a game that was originally scheduled for the fall, later pushed up to July, releasing much earlier than a lot of people would have expected, something you don't normally see as you see most games and most video games that are announced. Usually sometimes you'll hear a delay here and there. Sometimes though. So that kind of surprised people though. And after thinking about maybe about 20 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I honestly have to say that this is probably the best entry in the series, and one that I could definitely see this game getting nominated for Game of the Year. Now, whether it wins Game of the Year or not, that remains to be seen though. Obviously, Elden Ring is at the top contender though, but I definitely see Xenoblade Chronicles getting that Game of the Year though. So why don't we get started with the pros and cons, and there are three parts in terms of the pros I could talk about though. The first one has to do with the gameplay. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles gameplay has always been sort of interesting though. Basically, it's set up where you automatically attack when you get close to your enemies though, but you have these things called arts, and they can be, and then you do different things for your character though. And anytime you use the art, you gotta wait to recharge the art to recharge though. And some of these arts can be used in certain parts though. If you're at a side of the enemy, you can use an art that could do heavily damage to enemies if you're at the side of it or behind or anything like that. So you still have to strategize where you want to put your character and all. And that still remains in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The interesting thing about it is that it kind of feels, at least from my view though, it feels like an evolved version of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 art system, where your arts are assigned to your like your A, B, and X and Y button though. But what's interesting and what's new to this as well is that you can combine certain classes that you have, and you have different classes in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. At first, you'll start out with like medic and fighter and all, but over time you can basically switch different classes to different characters, to even evolving some of those classes though. You can even also have the ability to combine moves from, say, like a medic with, like, say, your fighter or anything like that, or anything like that. So it really feels like an somewhat of evolved version of what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had with their art system. Other things you have is the ability such as turning into Obororas, if I'm saying the name correctly, which are basically the ability to sort of like do a bit more to turn into these beings to do a bit more damage though. You do have sort of a timer on it though, so you can't basically Don't expect it to be too long though, and like the arts though, there is a cooldown period, so you don't get a little too greedy with it though. The other thing you also have is the ability to basically do this like big like combo meter. Once there's a meter that fills up as a circle. Once it fills up, if you push the plus button though, you could do these special moves though, and you could really do a lot of damage to certain enemies though. This could come in handy when you're fighting even some of the tougher enemies out there, which you could see above their health bars. They may have like a flame next to their health bar and all, to like a blue wings or something like that, which indicates extremely tough enemies. Although there are some where you can see like red numbers on them, that's like a really high level, ones that you probably want to avoid at the beginning until you're at a point where you're a bit more powerful and all. But in either way, the gameplay of the game is still good. It maintains the art system that Xenoblade Chronicles series is known for, but I feel like this is more like an evolved version of what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had in their art system though. The next thing I want to talk about is the world and the story though, and the world and story is still very impressive. I don't know how Monolith pulls it off, but they managed to make very impressive and big worlds, even for a system that may not be as powerful as, say, something like the PS5 or the Xbox Series X and S, or a PC for that matter. I just got to give credit to basically what Monolith Soft is able to pull. And the world, even on something like the Nintendo Switch, is still very, very impressive though. So hats off to Monolith Soft in terms of what they could pull off. Also, the story is still very good, still is enjoyable though. I've always enjoyed the story in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. This one now involves two different factions and sort of discovering the truth behind why these two factions are basically fighting and all. So it's the story, and the world itself is still very impressive. It's one of Monolith Soft's strong point when it comes to basically the Xenoblade Chronicles series and all. And last but not least is the visuals. And I will say Monolith is one of the few studios I know that can really show the visuals on the Nintendo Switch. And I will have to say I am actually very impressed with what they did. But the part that really kind of impresses me is basically how the game looks in portable mode. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when that launched, when playing in portable mode, I'll be honest with you, it looked ugly though. I mean, it's tolerable, but it definitely looked really, really ugly though. And yeah, that was probably one of my biggest criticisms for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, while an improvement over Xenoblade Chronicles 2, still not there in any way though. So to see how Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks in portable mode, I'm very impressed. It looks like they may have learned their lessons from both 2 and Definitive Edition. For what I understand, they use their own render software. Think of it kind of like in the way their version of what NVIDIA has with their DLSS that they use for PC gaming and all. So it's sort of their take on it. I just don't know how they pull it off, but I got to give them credit for how they were able to pull it off, especially when you look at the game in portable mode though. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the con. So we'll take a little break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my video review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And there are really only 2 cons that I can think of in terms of based on my time with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, I do want to talk about the visuals that I will bring up here. Now, as I mentioned though, I talked about how the game looked good even in portable mode, which kind of surprised me considering how Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition looked in portable mode and all. And I will say that I still am very impressed with how Monolith Soft was able to basically pull off what they wanted to do in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on the Nintendo Switch. That said though, as impressive as the game looks, and again, especially with the way the enemies are designed and all, there are times when the game kind of looks a little bit ugly here and there and all. While it doesn't really hinder the gameplay or anything like that, though. There are times when it doesn't look exactly as impressive or anything like that. Still, I mean, I will say the game still looks nice. It still looks good, even for a game on the Nintendo Switch, though. But there are moments where it just doesn't look as impressive or anything like that. And last but not least has to do with the battles. And while I still think the battles are enjoyable in the game, and they are definitely one of the strong points in the Xenoblade Chronicles series, though, I have noticed that it can get a little bit chaotic, though. In past entries of Xenoblade Chronicles, you had up to 3 characters in basically you could bring into battle, though. Here you have up to, like, I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6, to even I think like a 7th character, like a hero character you can bring in. And I apologize if I get that wrong or anything like that, but there are times when bringing all those characters in can be a little chaotic every now and then, especially if you're trying to figure out whose enemy you're supposed to attack and everything like that. Although you can lock onto them with I think it's the L button on your controller and all that stuff. But yeah, the battles can sometimes be a bit chaotic compared to how they were in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Definitive Edition, where you only had 3 and you could swap it. You have to change characters and all that. This one can get a little bit chaotic here and there. On one hand, it does kind of help make leveling up a little bit better and all that stuff. So there are some ups and downs to this, though. So sometimes battles can get a little chaotic with all the characters on the screen every now and then. Overall, I still think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is an enjoyable game, and definitely one I would recommend to not only Nintendo fans but also JRPG fans, to be exact, though. At its best, though, the gameplay is still as enjoyable. I still feel like it's an evolved version of what the art system was in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and all. The world and the story is still very impressive, though. I'm very impressed with how Monolith Software is able to craft this world and all, especially on a system like the Nintendo Switch. And visually, I will say, out of all the Xenoblade Chronicles games, this is probably the best looking one they have done, and I'm even more impressed with how they were able to make the game still look good in portable mode, and it's a big improvement over how the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition looked in portable mode. At its worst, though, sometimes, as impressive as the game can look, there are times when it can look a little bit ugly, though. I mean, it's not terrible, but obviously it doesn't look great either, especially if you're looking at it on your big screen or on your TV and all. And sometimes with all the characters on the screen and all, sometimes battles can get a little bit chaotic here and there, though. But in either case, though, it doesn't stop me from enjoying this game, though. This is one I definitely would recommend, like I said, for Nintendo fans and JRPG fans, though. I definitely am open to seeing how, basically, I would like to see Monolith Software continue the Xenoblade Chronicles series, though. But I would be open to saying a remake of Xenoblade Chronicle X or a continuation of that series, or seeing something brand new from Monolith Soft. I would like for them to either tackle, say, maybe one of Nintendo's IPs like a Golden Sun, or basically come up with a brand new IP. But in either way, I am very impressed with what Monolith Software has done, and seeing what they were able to pull off with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it does give me some hope with the sequel to Breath of the Wild, since Monolith Soft is helping out on that game. It does give me some high hopes for that game as well, though. And given how well the Xenoblade Chronicles series has done for Nintendo, though, I really think Nintendo needs to consider maybe either remastering or remaking or doing a sequel, find some way to do this to either Pandora's Tower or The Last Story. I mean, if a game like Xenoblade Chronicles can do well, I really think something like The Last Story and Pandora's Tower deserves another shot, at least from my view, to be exact, though. So I'm hoping Nintendo will one day maybe go back and bring those, or somehow revise those IPs and all. But Either way, though, fans of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 are definitely will enjoy. I mean, fans of Xenoblade Chronicles in general definitely enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It does give me some high hopes for what Monolith Soft can do with either another entry in the series or something brand new in general, though. But in either way, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is definitely a recommendation. And I definitely could see this game get at least get nominated for Game of the Year. But like I said, whether it actually wins Game of the Year or not, that, however, remains to be seen, though. Okay, this concludes my video review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Have you picked up the game yet, though? Are you impressed with what Monolith Software was able to pull off with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on the Nintendo Switch? Does this give you some high hopes for the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, since Monolith Soft is helping out on that game as well, though? Do you think that Monolith Soft should continue with another entry in the Xenoblade Chronicles series? Do you think they should remaster or remake Xenoblade Chronicle X or continue that series? Do you think they should tackle maybe another of Nintendo's IPs, like, say, Golden Sun, for that matter, though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!